This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 436 of the Dressage Radio Show on the Horse Radio Network, brought to you by Kentucky Performance Products and Total Saddle Fit. Tonight we are going to recap the dressage portion of the Retired Racehorse Project with Allison Willoughby. After that, we tackle the difficult topic of cancer with our friend Emily Craig Donaldson. And of course, we have a great Total Saddle Fit tip.
This is Reese Koffler-Stanfield from Georgetown, Kentucky.
And this is Philip Parks from Rockwood, Ontario, and you're listening to the Dressage Radio Show.
Well, hello, Phil. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you, Reese?
I'm good. I kind of did a non-horsey thing today, which was what did horsey
What were you
things
up to?
do?
Tell us what you're up to. You got such an
What was it?
exciting life.
Well, it is a fun life. I am not going to lie. I am lucky that I get to do a lot of fun, different things. But today I spent the afternoon. I actually got up early and got the horses ridden, and everybody here, we kind of pitched in. And I went to the Make-A-Wish Foundation Day at the Races, which was really cool. We had 10 kids that we will grant their wish to go. Actually, there were several trips. One, the young lady I ended up meeting and spending some time with, she was going to Paris in May. One other gentleman was going to London. Lots of Disney trips. So it was really cool. It was a really special day to go and spend some time with a really fun organization. So yes, it was
Where was
very...
that held? Was that at Keeneland track or?
It was at the Keeneland race course
Nice.
here, which is
That's
gorgeous
beautiful.
and very
Yeah.
fun to go. And we had lunch and got to spend some time with some families. And actually, like I said, it was kind of, I've never been and stood in the paddock and in the winner's circle. So I walked with Jaden and her family, and we walked down the tunnel and got to go right to the track. And it was really cool. It was kind of like, wow, this is Jaden's wish, but this is really fun to be a part of it. So it was really
Lovely.
a fun
Great.
afternoon. So that was good. Got to
Great.
come out of the barn a little bit. So that was fun, and grant some wishes and make a day special for a couple families. So it was a really fun time. So yeah. And we're just busy getting ready for nationals here, and a lot of friends are calling me, and I can't wait. It's going to be quite a week, and we're going to really all enjoy having everybody come into Lexington. So if anybody needs any help, give me a call. I'm happy to help in any way I can. So
Good.
yeah.
Good. Well, we've got some administrative stuff to take care of. Karen Iceberg, right after the show, sent us an email, and she was inaccurate in some of her information about the nutrition stuff that we wanted to clear up today. She was really feeling bad about it, but she said her brain went on temporary vacation because she told us and everyone that B-pulp was high in phosphorus when it is actually very high in calcium in a ratio of 10-1 calcium to phosphorus. So the recommended ratio of calcium to phosphorus in the diet is 2-1. This ratio is very important, and if it gets too far out of whack, it can cause many problems, big problems. So B-pulp is a great super fiber when used correctly, but if you are feeding over 3 pounds of B-pulp per day, check with your veterinarian or nutritionist about the best way to balance that phosphorus-calcium ratio. So there, I think we've kind of taken care of that. She feels terrible about it, and we wanted to have her back on the show, but she can come back on. But she is great about her information, and it's awesome that when she gets it wrong, she sends it right to us, and hopefully everybody can correct their notes if they're making notes about that talk we had with her last week.
Yeah, and we will have this, we'll put the updated in our show notes. And if anybody has any questions, please feel free to chat with us, and we can, chat with us, and we can send you that information. It sounded good to me, but it was like, that is something we got to correct. So, yeah. But Phil, we actually have a really good show, and I hope everyone really enjoys the show today or gets some really good information. One of my students, Allie Willoughby, is going to come on and talk about the Retired Racehorse Project, and she's going to be our first guest. Well, tonight we are super excited to have Allison Willoughby on the show. Allie just won the Thoroughbred Retired Racehorse Dressage Division with about 100 horses. Allie, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Well, we are super excited to hear. First, tell us a little bit about the Retired Racehorse Project in general. Tell us a little bit about and how the dressage sort of comes in.
Yeah, well, it's a really cool kind of up and coming competition. I think this year was like their third year running, and it's a trainers competition, which I think is really cool and unique, something that I enjoyed. And you're given like a limited amount of time to start your horse. There's a requirements on when your horse would have had to run the last. So it has to have actively been in training or ran races within a certain period of time of the makeover, and you're not allowed to start riding your horse until December 1st of the year previous. So it's kind of just who can prepare their horse the best within a certain period of time to the makeover.
Right. And so tell us about Chapter 2, or you call him Deuce, right?
Yes, yeah. His registered name is Chapter 2, but we lovingly call him Deuce around the barn. He is a big thoroughbred for, his breeding and for all of that. He's about at least 17 hands tall, and he is very big. And I got him from a friend of mine here in Lexington. I knew that I wanted to do the makeover this year, and I do have friends within the racing industry, and I harassed them quite a lot to help me find a horse. And it took actually at least 3 months, and I looked at a few, but I didn't like them enough to take them. And then finally, a friend of mine called me at 6:00 in the morning from the racetrack and was like, "I think I found your horse." And I went to Keeneland that same day, and they pulled out a giant, almost black thoroughbred. And all they did was actually walk him in a straight line for me. And I said that I would take him.
So
That's
for
awesome.
anyone that's interested, do you have the breeding details on this particular thoroughbred?
I do, yeah. He is by a stallion named More Than Ready, and he is out of a mare called Winds of March, and she is a Saddler's Wells mare. I think she's got to be quite large because More Than Ready is not known to have big offspring, and he is like abnormally large for like coming from his daddy supposedly, but his dam must be quite big.
And so what was it about this particular thoroughbred that either, caught your eye, or was it the breeding, or why after just walking him down the aisle can you say, that you were going to take this guy?
Well, you definitely get a good feeling. I like horses that are really balanced uphill. And, he is definitely an uphill built type of a horse, which is always what I look for. He's pretty short coupled, which is also what I look for. And so just physically, he was my type. And just being big and, pretty, I was like, okay, even if he doesn't work for me long term, like I can work with this. Like this is something that somebody else is going to want. Like even if he wasn't going to be, you don't know at that point anything about personality or any real details on the horse, but I was like, I can work with this in one way or the other. Like I said, if he's not for me, I'll be able to easily find him a home for somebody else. And I also really wanted to take him because I had a lot of things in common with him through people within the industry, and it was kind of important to me to take a horse to the makeover that I had like connections to, and not just something random from somebody I've never met, from the backside of a track and I would never hear from again, because the makeover gets a lot of publicity, and I just wanted to have the support, from his previous connections going into the makeover. So I liked that aspect as well. And I just got a good feeling. So I said, okay.
Well, that's always the best. So tell us a little bit about what he was like to train for when did you start training him exactly? And what was he like to train?
Yeah. Well, I got him and then I turned him out for 8 weeks at least. It was definitely 2 solid months, and I pulled his shoes, and then I brought him back into training probably like middle of March, and I just started him then. And I think I just got really lucky when it came to his training because, a lot of horses coming off the track, they can kind of have their limitations, whether it's physically or mentally. And he was so easy. He's just the definition of genuine. He's a horse that puts a smile on your face every day because he tries so hard. He's very level-headed. He's not hot at all, which is why we could do so well in the dressage. He's very quiet for the most part. And he was actually really lazy when I started him. He had no work done, for 8 weeks, and I didn't even lunge him first. I just hopped on, and I had to pony club kick him just to make him walk and trot. We've gotten over that now. Now he kind of is in front of my leg, but for a long time he was actually quite lazy.
So Allie, tell us a little bit about when you guys got to the event, because I actually went over and there was a lot going on. So what was that like for you guys? There was a lot going on.
Yeah, I was actually, it was a lot. It was a lot. I was a little bit overwhelmed. I mean, I put everything to the side to compete. I was completely focused on competing my one horse. I couldn't imagine trying to do much more than that. But, the atmosphere wasn't anything that he wasn't already used to because I'm lucky enough to be local. So he has competed in those exact dressage arenas previously when we have evented, at the horse park during the summer. So I think the overall atmosphere he was used to. That was only the second time actually stabling on site. I did decide to stable just because I knew that the schedule would be kind of chaotic and I didn't want to deal with, being tied to the trailer all day. But, it was actually really kind of rigorous on the horses. I couldn't imagine, showing up with a horse that had any less experience. I know a lot of people come in with horses that hadn't, done a lot or been a lot of places. And well, it was also probably extra a lot because we did 2 disciplines. The dressage day, you rode twice. You did a dressage test and then you do a demo performance. And the next day we did the eventing all in one day. So I went into the dressage arena for a third time. At that time, he was a little blasé. He wasn't very excited to go back into the dressage rings again, but he always puts in a solid performance. I think he was just a little confused. And then you do the show jumping and then you do the eventing. And because I was lucky enough to then go on to the finale for both disciplines, he had to go into the eventing finale at 9:00 in the morning, and then he had to go back in for the dressage finale. So that was 3 days of multiple rides per day. And I did have 2 people try him as well because he's for sale. So it was, he's gotten 4 days off because it was a lot of work. And I think by the end of it, even him, he's so level-headed and such a good, genuine character. But I think by the end of the dressage finale, he had enough a little bit. He needed a break.
That's understandable.
So I love it. So Allie, what did you do in the finale, right? Explain what the finale is, because that's kind of, yeah.
Yeah, it's super cool. They bring in the top 5, because like we said, the division is 90 people. I don't really know how they can judge that many people all against each other. It's really tough. So they bring in the top 5 for a chance to add more points to your score. So you can actually overtake people or, drop down just depending on how you do in the finale. It's another opportunity to get more points. And the dressage, they did it kind of like the demo where they gave you 4 minutes and you could just do whatever you wanted for 4 minutes. And you got to even pick a song. I made a big deal about what song I wanted to play, but, and you could just demonstrate whatever you wanted. And I was actually really conservative with my horse all weekend. I played it safe, and I think it obviously benefited me a lot to kind of play it safe and kind of do what I knew I was really good at. I didn't push the envelope. I did 0 lateral work at all because it's kind of inconsistent. And they, in the explanation of the event, they make a big point to say, don't dive into things that are out of your reach, because if you do, you'll be penalized. If you ask your horse to do something that it's not prepared to do, you'll be penalized. And so I took that really seriously. And so I just stayed very simple and I actually had like an entire plan and a big plan for what I was going to do with my demo, how I was going to start, what I was going to demonstrate. And he kind of went into the arena, and before my time had officially started, I wanted to pick up the canner before they rang the bell and started me, and picked up the canner, and he leaped straight into the air and kind of bucked at the same time. And he has never done anything like that with me before. And I was like, oh no, like, oh no, and I think that's what I mean when I just said he was over it. Like he didn't really want to. He's a good guy, like, he still tried, but for a horse that is literally foot perfect,
so
amateur friendly. Yeah, he's normally the easiest. I could put a child on him and, trust him to the moon. So when he did that, I kind of panicked and I got super nervous, and you're in front of all of these people that my plan just like totally went out the window.
Yeah.
And I just kind of trotted and cantered around randomly, I felt like, for 4 minutes, and I actually walked out of the arena like fairly disappointed. But I think because I played it safe, my horse had all this tension, and so I simplified the plan immediately, and it just did a lot of changes of bend and direction. And luckily, he always does a really nice walk. Even if he is like in an electric atmosphere, you can drop the reins and do a free walk on him, and he did that for me, which was nice to like collect my thoughts and be like, what am I doing? But yeah, and I think that it's just nice to be rewarded for some simplicity.
I love it. So what's the plan with him next? What are you doing?
I don't really know. It's been kind of a crazy summer, especially a really crazy September. And, he is for sale. My end goal with all of my horses is to find them, the perfect home. I'm definitely not in any hurry to sell him. I'd really enjoy competing him next season, and furthering his training in both the eventing and the dressage. But, he's really primed to go in any direction. I'd say his basics are really strong, and he's a beautiful horse that could really go anywhere, like I said. But yeah, so he is for sale. I'd like to eventually find him a home, but if I still have him next season, I'll enjoy moving him up the levels. And I'm not in any hurry to sell him, that's for sure.
I bet not. So how about yourself, right? You just started a business. So how could people get a hold of you for training with their off the track thoroughbreds?
Yeah, that would be great. Yep, I finally branched out and did away with my amateur status, and I was like, okay, time to start making money and just put myself out there. And I've enjoyed that so much so far. I love teaching the flat lessons. I always leave all my lessons feeling very like fulfilled, and it just doesn't feel like work to me. I really enjoy helping people. And yeah, I just I don't have a working website yet, but my cell phone or Facebook or any of those means, I'm willing to travel and help people at their farms. And I definitely would say that the off the track thoroughbred has become like a niche for me, something that I'm really invested in. I like helping people with their thoroughbreds who are more than capable of doing great dressage.
Yes, absolutely. Well, Ali, thanks so much for coming on and telling us about your time at the makeover, and we wish you well on your new adventure.
Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate you having me. And yep, I'm looking for my horse for next year, and we'll be back with a vengeance for the makeover 2018.
I love it. I love it. Can't wait to see.
Cool. Thanks so much.
The sun is just peeking above the tree line as you walk into the barn. You grab your horse's halter off the hook and head out to the field. The dew shimmers in the sun as you walk across the damp grass. You call his name and his head comes up as he walks toward you, looking for the apple in your pocket. You take your time grooming, enjoying the peace and quiet in the empty barn. A refreshing breeze greets you as you start down the tree-lined path. Your horse ambles along on a loose rein as you both enjoy a relaxing ride. The feeling you get on an early morning hack is why we do what we do at Kentucky Performance Products. This feeling is brought to you by Microphase. Fill the nutritional gaps in your horse's diet Microphase Vitamin and Mineral Supplement is a low-calorie way to provide your horse with the vitamins and minerals missing from their diet. The horse that matters to you matters to us.
Well, tonight it really truly is an honor to have our friend Emily Craig Donaldson on of Donaldson Dressage. And Emily, welcome to the show. You have quite a story, my friend.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a crazy up and down year.
Yes, it sounds like it. Well, tell us your story. I mean, you just wrote a great Chronicle of the Horse blog, and we're friends, and so we knew what was going on a little bit. But tell our listeners kind of what's been going on in your life.
So I found a lump back in the end of June, early July, and like most young horse trainers, most young people, I was busy and kind of was procrastinating about having it checked out. So finally did go to the doctor in early August, and he confirmed that there was a second lump. And so they ordered this is in my left breast, they ordered a mammogram and an ultrasound, and they didn't like the look of what they saw in the ultrasound. So then I had to have a core biopsy done. And then on August 17th, the radiologist that did the biopsy gave me a call like close to 6 o'clock at night. I was driving home from the barn and broke the news that it was cancer. And I had a feeling, just gut feeling after the ultrasound that it wasn't good. And obviously you play head games with yourself and you go back and forth thinking, well, it might just be a cyst, because I had a cyst in my right breast. And so I was pretty religious about doing self-exams as a result. And so, it's just, it's such it plays with your head.
Sure.
So August 17th, found out pretty promptly. That was a Thursday. I think it was the following Monday, I even met with my surgeon I have a nurse navigator that works for University of Pennsylvania who's been amazing throughout the whole process in scheduling my appointments and moving things along. And she and my surgeon both really seemed to get that I was self-employed, active, and had things to do.
Yeah.
Busy.
So they're good about sort of listening to me. Yeah. And I was pretty obnoxious saying, okay, well, my surgeon said she operates on Mondays and Fridays. And I said, okay, how about this Friday? She said, no. I said, okay, the following Monday, no. So I'm like, okay, how about the following Friday? And so I got her to commit to September 1st. But I had to have a breast MRI done, blood work, chest x-ray, bone scan, genetic testing. There might have been one other thing. So I had to get through all that stuff before they would commit to surgery. And obviously they don't want to put you in for a block of time and then only to find out that something came back on one of those tests, which would prevent you from, having the surgery. So understandably, they don't want to lose the spot to somebody that, isn't ready for surgery. So thankfully everything worked out. And I managed to get to the barn. I had to be at the hospital at 8:15 that Friday. And so I managed to get to the barn early and ride at least Audi, my one FEI horse that was going to Devon. And so I thought, well, at least I had something to do. I wasn't allowed to eat because I had to fast. And so I got one ride in, spent 2 nights in the hospital, and which actually, it's really weird to say this, but it was really, really pleasant and enjoyable. It was quiet because it was a holiday weekend. The nurses were amazing. And so my husband got to stay with me there, and that went smoothly. And then discharged Sunday, had 2 drains in, one on each side, because I had a bilateral mastectomy. Backtrack, I did the genetic testing, and I had made the decision, mostly just for peace of mind, to take both breasts off. And because I thought I don't want to go through life, if I have a long life, I don't want to go through it worrying about that breast. And the day of the surgery, my doctor got the genetic testing back, confirming that I was positive for genetic mutations. So it basically just reinforced that my decision to do bilateral mastectomy made sense, because she would have encouraged it anyway. So that's sort of neither here nor there at that point. And so pathology showed she took out 6 lymph nodes, sentinel node test on the left side. Everything was clear. Lymph nodes were clear. So that was all good. 2 tumors were not connected. But I did have DCIS, which is breast tissue that's non-invasive cancer. So the whole lower half of my breast was filled with DCIS. So it's sort of like a kind of a nasty playground. And there were two tumors, invasive mammary carcinoma situated within the DCIS. So it was not a really happy place. But, everything was contained in the left breast. The one tumor was close to the margin, so that's why I have to go through the radiation after I'm finished with chemo. I just had my first round of chemo yesterday. That'll go every 2 weeks. I do 8 cycles, 8 treatments over a 16-week period, assuming that, there are no complications, but that's the plan. So pretty intense treatment because it's such in a concentrated period of time. But, I got through the workday today, totally normal workday, and I just took my time getting through horses. But I felt, it's funny, it's sort of like when you have a cold and you exercise and you get a little adrenaline rush and you're like, I'm fine. And then you stop exercising and you're like, oh, I don't feel fine. So
that's fine.
That's sort of how I felt today. I was like, oh, I need to sit down. Oh, I need a nap. But I got through it all, and so that made me happy because I hate being sick, and I really don't like sitting around. So this to me is an adjustment.
Sure. So, what would your advice be? Because you're a young woman, and so what would your advice be to everybody, to every woman out there, self-exams or how, give us some advice.
Yeah, I think that, it really is. I know, I've read stories, and prior to my diagnosis, I was aware of the risk for breast cancer or other diseases, at a younger age. And so my mom had breast cancer when she was 56. She had gone through menopause, and then she had breast cancer. So a little bit of a different situation than what I'm dealing with. But, I think self-exams, I think taking care of yourself, right now, I feel like one thing, it's just interesting, the timing, sort of this like ebb and flow that happens. Right now, I'm being inundated with material from friends about diet, nutrition, and all the research that's going into foods that either foods that can, some people say reverse cancer. I still have to read about that. I don't know what to make of it, but at least foods that are the best things you can, put into your body. And then in comparison, things that are really bad. And I think I've always lived a really healthy lifestyle. I've always been really active, and I eat well, and I have no vices. I don't crib. I don't kick.
Yeah.
So,
no bucking.
No bucking, no rearing. You're a good girl. Do your job.
Been doing everything right. And so it's weird, because you just sort of start to think, okay, what did I do to cause this? Because I was talking to my husband, he's a vet. But, I was saying, obviously, a genetic mutation, but you say, okay, what sort of brought this to a head? And then you start to think, okay, is it the deodorant,
Yeah.
Is it the water I drink, And it's just hard to sort of to not read into all that stuff. And so I am going to see if I'm going to educate myself about some of the information that's out there, and and see if there's something I could do better. But I think really taking care of yourself, going to your doctor, I think blood work, I know we say this about our horses, is just if there's something that's sort of not right, if you don't feel right, or, it's like just do a CBC, is like just get some routine blood work done. And doctors can prescribe that. If you, what my doctor said once was, have you felt tired in the last, 60 days or something? I said, well, yeah, of course. And it's okay, good. That's how they can get your blood work done and have insurance cover it. So, I think just keeping in touch with your doctors, and, you don't have to be neurotic about it, but not letting things get away from you. And also if something isn't right, doing something about it. Because I in hindsight, I wish that I had gone to the doctor sooner. I had an appointment, but I just sort of, said, oh, I don't have time for this. And it was a hot day. I had my dog in the car, and I made an excuse. And and who's to say if it would have made a difference or not? They caught it early. So yeah, I think really paying attention to your body and not taking it for granted. And I really have been, since I moved to the area 3 years ago and my business has taken off, I've kind of been running myself a little bit ragged, and it's a little bit who I am, but it made me take a step back and think about what's important. And I'm still, working 7 days a week, but it, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, okay, long term, who do I want to be? How do I want to live my life? What's important to me? And also not sort of ignoring stuff that needs to be addressed. So it's definitely a wake up call. And so I guess my advice would be to not think that this is something that happens when you're older. It's the sad reality is that, it can happen to anyone. And unfortunately, more and more, it seems to be coming up in breast cancer, in women that are younger and younger. And, who knows? I don't know why. There's no clear answer, but just sort of accepting that and not living your life in fear, but being realistic about, knowing your history. If you can do genetic testing, if there is a family history for something like ovarian or breast, looking into that. I know Shannon Dewick was one that I read the article in Dressage Today when she was diagnosed right at the same time that her mom and her aunt, I believe, were diagnosed. And, so there was a clear family history. I don't know if they knew that, prior to the fact that they all got diagnosed at the same time, but knowing as much as you can about your family history, I think is beneficial as well.
So Emily, I just have a question about, after first going in and going through this process, how did you kind of approach the riding, the teaching? I mean, you've been competing all summer. It's been very busy. How did you kind of manage those things? And did you find that, staying busy helped, or did you take some extra time this summer to just take a little extra rest?
Yeah, so I pretty much going into the surgery, I was trying to fit in everything I could and get all my ducks in a row. I had the surgery. I was back to teaching. Surgery was on a Friday. I was back to teaching that Tuesday. I had the drains out that Thursday, and then I was back to riding. I rode 3 horses Friday.
Goodness,
so I didn't really miss a beat. And then that Saturday morning, I usually do the horses. I have about, 15 horses in my care. So I took care of all the horses that Saturday morning, and I was a little nervous about that, but that went fine. And after that, I was kind of hit the ground running. I had a horse show. I had 2 shows that I had entered before all this stuff came up, and I basically was talking to my groom. I said, so, okay, if surgery goes well and I have the drains out, I said I could still go to that show on, I don't know, it was like September 13th or 11th or something. And my groom was just saying, I can't believe we're having this conversation, and I recognize that I can scratch, but it's really, I hate scratching. I'm the type that if I sign up for something, I'm going to go. So when I got, was discharged and had just started back teaching, I just thought, gosh, I don't know that I'm going to be back to riding as soon as I really had hoped or expected. And I thought this might take a while, but it was weird how teaching just started to stimulate me. And then I felt totally normal. So I went to a 1-day show, a local show with Audi, the one horse I was getting ready for Devon. And then that weekend I had 2 horses entered at a show at Loch Moy. We were going out for 1 day. And the reason for that show is that 2 of those horses, I wanted to get 2 more scores towards the year-end awards because I knew that they both could finish pretty well in the country. And so that was the reason I really wanted to do that show. And it worked out. The one horse, he's an Andalusian owned by a client of mine, Barb Ward. And he's ranked number 1 last time I checked for number 1 Andalusian in the country at training level. So, I knew I wanted to do it for Barb. I wanted to do it for Byrne, and I wanted to do it for myself. I knew this horse. I thought he deserves it. And if I can pull it off, then, let's go for it. So that worked out. The whole month of September, I was pretty much doing everything the way I had been doing it. Went to Devon, which was a real test because I had 3 horses entered in the breed show that Tuesday and Wednesday. And then I had 1 horse one of those breed show horses also doing the FEI 5-year-old test on Thursday. And then I had my horse Audi in the CDI, which was our first CDI. Both of us did our first CDI together. And so we did the Prix St. George and the I-1. I was pretty much there from Monday, Saturday, and then I went back up Sunday morning to see my stepdaughter do a presentation. So I was there for the entire Devon.
Wow.
And then we turned around and went regionals the Wednesday after Devon, and that went really well. And now we're going to go to Kentucky because Byrne won his training level.
Nice.
Yeah, he won the training level championship. So Barb is great, his owner. Throughout all of this, she's basically said if, she's trusted me, sort of deferred to me if she thinks that I, want to go for it and I feel up for it, she's willing to back me. And I'm really, really lucky. And, so far everything's worked out. And so the plan is to go to Kentucky. So we're just sorting out the details now. That'll be after my third treatment. But, I'll be like jacked up on steroids and anti-nausea medicine. So I'll get through 2 tests and then I can just, sleep that
Relax.
weekend. So I'm not too worried.
Relax. Wow.
So.
Oh my goodness, girl. Really just such an impressive story. And we're so thankful that you came on to the show to tell us about it. And, but we also wanted to ask you, how was Devon this year? What was it like to be there? We haven't talked about Devon at all, so we're going to change gears a little bit.
Devon was great. The weather was beautiful. It was hot, but as the show went on, it cooled off a little bit. It was a little bit of a quieter Devon, but still, it was really pleasant. Just the right number of horses in the breed show. It wasn't sort of chaotic like it has been in years past, where you have all these young horses running around loose. It was really, really, really nice. And I think they do a great job with the arenas and managing the layout, the constraints of the grounds and making it work. Vendors, I think, did really well. I had sponsors there and they were really pleased with business. So that was great. Made up for 2 years in a row of rain and cold.
Mm-hmm.
And, so yeah, I had a 3-year-old that ran in hand. I didn't run him. I had High Point Hanoverians ran him. It's a 3-year-old that I backed this summer. So so that was his first show and he handled it really well. And then I had a 4-year-old that placed 3rd. So Julian placed 5th in the in-hand class for the 3-year-old. And then I had a 4-year-old, another client horse that was 3rd in the under saddle class. That was his second show. And then a 5-year-old that went in the Material. He was 3rd in the Material qualifier and then didn't place in the Material championship, but he was really, really good. And then that same horse went in the FEI 5-year-old test on Thursday and he was 6th. And then my horse Audi jogged that Thursday and was in the Prix St. George and the I-1. And this has been his first year. He showed 3 Prix St. Georges in 2016. And then I bumped him back down to 4th level and he won at Devon last year at 4th level. And so this year we came out just showing FEI and he's definitely matured a lot. And so made the plan of going to the CDI and he was great. He had the best test he's ever had at Prix St. George on Friday. He's not quite at the point where he can really sort of present himself in a really powerful uphill way. He just struggles with that. And so it's a work in progress, but it was his best test by far, no mistakes. And he got a 64, which I totally get. I feel like when you are riding in front of the judges on the CDI panel, it's sort of like, I feel like you're starting with a 0 and you're earning like every point you can.
Every point. There,
yes, true.
Totally
yeah.
full.
Well,
so
I have to shout out to our Canadians actually at the CDI there because
he kicked butt.
Yeah.
If Ashley Holzer was still showing for Canada, we would have swept every single class.
I know. Yeah, the Canadians are amazing. Yeah, they totally brought it.
And Erin Crawford, I think she won the 6-year-olds in the CDI as well, right?
Yeah, that's fantastic.
She won 5-year-old and 6-year-old, and then she had her Grand Prix horse, and she did really well. She had a great show.
That's exciting.
And she's on her way, or she is in Maine now. She's riding the Carl Hester Symposium.
Yeah,
with the 5-year-old that did really well at Devon. So,
Very nice.
yeah, those darn Canadians.
Yes, I'm with you, girl.
Everywhere you looked, you saw maple leaf. It's like, oh my gosh, what's wrong with the Americans? Like, the Canadians are so good about being patriotic. Amazing. And I thought, well, we need to have little American flags on everything.
Agreed.
And, be more proud.
I like it.
We're used to you guys doing that about everything else, so I think it's okay. That's why we have to bring it when we go to Devon.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love it. I love it. Well, Emily, we can't thank you enough for coming on and chatting with us just about your story. And we hope, that people really do their self-exams and they really pay attention, because you're a young woman and it happens. And it's very, very scary. We've also all have a couple other friends that have been diagnosed this summer too. So we're really thankful you came on the show. And anybody has any questions or want to find out about your training, how can they find you online?
So I have a website, EmilyDonaldsonDressage.com, and have, I think, a pretty decent social media presence via Facebook and Instagram. So I try to keep those sites pretty well updated. And then just recently started a blog for the Chronicle of the Horse, and I don't really have a clear idea about how frequently I'll be posting, but I'm hoping to keep that up and find a way to continue to interact with the public that way, because the first post totally knocked my socks off in the response, and so now I've enjoyed it. It's overwhelming, but I've really been blown away by the outpouring of support and just the dialogue that I now have with people that I never would have known before. So it's really cool. So it's opened a new door, and I like writing. Obviously I did, a lot when I was younger. And so it's a good exercise for me, just something different from the writing to sit down and write and try to articulate some thoughts. And it's a good outlet. So those are some ways to connect with me. And I'm in Eastern Pennsylvania. So
awesome.
So as a result of the blog, I had people contact me through the Chronicle. They shared it on their Facebook page, and so that seems to be the sort of the primary way of for people to reach out to you. So I had a lot of comments, unbelievable number of comments, and then a lot of friends sharing the blog, and then I had so many people contact me directly with their own stories, advice, and then also people sharing websites and links to other articles that had been written. And I was familiar with a few, and sort of, it's always hard whenever you're trying to sort of express a thought. And, I was talking to Lauren Spreiser about this. I said, so what's your blog advice? And, she was laughing. She just said, you're going to have people, you're going to, upset people. It's just sort of inevitable. And so it's just hard to not offend somebody. And so I know that there are some people that are like, well, I've had this project has been going on, and, but for whatever reason, I didn't know about it. And so now I do. And that's sort of great, because that's the point. And so, I learned about all these other people that have gone through this. Some of them contacted me directly, and we've maintained a dialogue, and they've been giving me advice about, going into your first treatment, what to do, what not to do, how to handle things. And everybody's different in their body and how it responds to medication. But, people have given me just some ideas about kind of the cycle that, you might go through after treatment. And it's been great. I tend to be a pretty kind of, I'd say in general, a little bit of a private person. And so it's definitely kind of brought me out of my shell, and I'm enjoying that, and just kind of having a casual dialogue with people. And that's been very, very nice. So I'm thankful to the Chronicle and Lisa Slade, who presented me with this opportunity, because I think a lot of good could come of it. And that's my hope, is that if they're, I don't want to sort of use this breast cancer diagnosis to my goal is not to use it to make myself into a celebrity. That's not sort of my purpose. My purpose is really to see if there's something I can do to help somebody else, also at the same time gain information for myself, so which I am, but also if somebody else, sort of God forbid, has to go through this, if there's something I can do to serve them and make their experience better, or encourage somebody to go have that lump that they felt, 3 weeks ago, go have it checked out, then that's something positive.
Yes.
And so, it's just really cool to see how, I think there's so much negativity these days. What made me really happy was that this post seemed to bring out the best in everyone, and in a really genuine, nice, kind, compassionate way. It made me happy.
Well, we can't thank you enough for coming on our show. And if
you.
anybody wants to chat more with you, they can find you online. And again, we really appreciate it. And we're going to be rooting for you and Audi on every CDI we see you in for the next 10 years.
Forever.
So we can't wait
Yeah.
forever. We can't wait to. Well, I don't know if Audi wants to do CDIs forever, but Emily does.
Right? Yeah. No. She's like, can we go back to training level?
Yeah, exactly.
Circles, diagonals. I like that
Yes,
stuff.
exactly. That's perfect. Well, Emily, thanks so much for your time tonight, and we can't wait to keep following you.
Thank you very much. It was great to talk to you both.
This week's dressage training tip is brought to you by Total Saddle Fit, home of the shoulder relief girth at TotalSaddleFit.com.
Well, Phil and everybody, you know how much we love the shoulder relief girth, but the synthetic shoulder relief girth is an awesome way. I have them and use them, actually. They're great. I have one horse that it fits him super well. It's very affordable. It's antimicrobial. It's easy to clean. I think Justin did this girth just for me, since
I think it did happen after you told him that you used the hose on the leather girth. And I think you might have inspired this.
I think it inspired
the synthetic version.
Yes, but this one, the synthetic version, sits the same way as the leather one, and it sits in the natural girth grooves, and it set back to attach the billets further back and prevents the saddle from being pulled onto the shoulders. It even works on saddles, every saddle, and it simply corrects the physics on how the girth sits on the horse. So we really use this. It's great. It has 100% wool fleece cover with it. So this is a great girth. Again, the price point's very, very affordable. So you can get more information about it at TotalSaddleFit.com. And as always, Justin is fantastic. Justin at Total Saddle Fit, about answering any saddle fit questions. So he is great, and Philip and I both send questions to him. So I hope that everybody enjoys their synthetic girth or their shoulder relief girth. And Phil, we've got an awesome listener question for this week's Total Saddle Fit Tip of the Week.
Yeah, kind of a simple tip, I think, that we can tackle today. We had a listener ask when to introduce the whip and or the spurs to their horse. I think we're dealing with somebody that has a little bit of a horse that's a little bit on the lazy side. So, when do you do it? What is your advice on the whip spurs question?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. And I try on both instances to go to the least amount of spur possible, because at some level, if you have a really lazy horse, that really lazy horse just needs to learn to get in front of your aids. So I'm not a big fan of putting huge spurs and a big whip or double whips, or, I'm not a big fan on that. But there are times that you need them, number one. So when I'm talking to a student, I want to make sure that they have, they're steady in their leg position. For example, I have a youngster that rides with me, and I'd love to give her a little spur, but I don't feel like she is coordinated quite yet. I'm hoping in a month or two she'll be a little stronger and her legs will be a little bit quieter. And then the whip, I personally pretty much carry a whip all day long on every horse. That's me. You're going to get 50 different opinions from 50 different trainers, but I like the whip. If I have horses that are funny with the whip, I will still try to carry it, and because eventually they will get over it, theoretically. I've had a couple that don't, but really, if you carry them, most of my horses have always gotten better, and you use it appropriately. So again, we're talking as an extension of your leg aids. So I pretty much carry it all day long. I will put it down if necessary. And then again, spurs for myself. I kind of get dressed in the morning in a very basic pair of spurs, and I pretty much stay in a basic pair of spurs all day long. Again, I want to train my horses to be quite hot off my leg. So it's a very basic spur. So that's me. How about you, Phil?
Well, I like to introduce, so I start, when I start my young guys, the 3-year-olds, I like to introduce a short whip, like a jumper crop or bat. I don't know, different versions of what people call it. But, I kind of have it around them when I tack them up to make sure they really get used to it. And then, as soon as I start riding them, I ride them as part of an extension of myself. To have that short little whip with me, so that when you're teaching them to go forward, a lot of horses don't understand it, and they can be encouraged with a little tap. I like to hold the reins, and I don't like to smack a young horse on the butt, because normally you're going to get some buck reaction. But I like to use it as an encouragement tool to help in a few things. One, to help them, to understand the leg, to go forward, again on the shoulder, and also to kind of understanding a little bit steering, to kind of help push their shoulders around a little bit sometimes. So they're introduced to the idea of having the rider holding a whip very early on, and on using little taps with the whip very early on. And then usually when I come back to them as 4-year-olds, then they get introduced to the long whip kind of in the same way. I carry around, I touch them on the butt when I'm grooming or whatever, that they don't get scared of it. And then, 99% of the time, then it's easy, because I don't like to kick, because once you start kicking, you got nowhere to go. And the other problem is that it really affects a rider's position to be having to give those kind of big pony club kicks that you have to give sometimes when the horse decides he's done working, or he doesn't want to go forward, or he doesn't want to go past something that's scary. You just need the whip as not a punishment tool, but as an encouragement tool to kind of get them to listen a little bit. So I think there's no problem in carrying a whip. It's just part of the equipment, and carrying a whip all the time. And I mean, if you don't need it, you don't use it. It just kind of sits there. It's part of the rider. The horse doesn't care. So I really think that all horses should be kind of, taught to accept the whip a little bit and to be ridden with it. So I think that's part of the education. Spurs depends on the horse. I would say on the average horse, in their 4-year-old year, when we start doing a little bit of the more bending or lateral work, where the horse has to understand that the leg is not just a forward tool, but also a lateral tool, then a spur can help the horse to differentiate between, is this a forward leg or is this a little bit of a bending leg? And so, again, just a very small spur, something simple. And then, that they are used to that and they can be ridden with that or not with that. Some days I might take them off for a couple of weeks just to help, just to assess the horse a little bit and say, am I using too much spur? So I take it off and I ride without and then I ride with and, whatever. But again, it just is part of the equipment. I think, as we know, when the horse goes to an FEI competition, that the spur is mandatory. So I think we're always sort of developing towards that idea. Because you don't want a 7-year-old horse that you're going to now be introducing new tools on. I think that's part of that can cause a problem, So, being used to all of the stuff when they're early on and just being careful about how you apply it and to constantly assess your position and how you're using these things is very important. And it's not a problem. So, I think you want to fix a problem with a really small aid rather than, like I said, than having to do a big a big kick all the time or even intermittently. It's kind of throws everybody out of balance and it's not effective. So these little tools can help when used properly. So that's how I approach it. I think that's sort of explains our philosophy behind it.
And yeah, I hope that answers your question for sure. And good luck with it for sure. Well, Phil, as always, we love email and Facebook shout outs. It's our favorite. And we're working our way down the queue of questions. But keep them coming because we like having a long queue of those. Those are fantastic.
I think we've got to do another episode maybe next week or the week after. Look for an announcement because we're going to need new guests for our monthly segment about question and answer series we're going to try and do. So look for a notice about that and send us a message. We want to answer and help with your training questions and problems. I think that's a lot of fun. We've really enjoyed the first two installments of that series. So we're going to keep it going.
Keep them coming. I love it. Well, as always, you can find our show notes and links to today's guest on our website, dressageradio.com. Like us on Facebook, just search Dressage Radio Show. Follow us on Twitter at Horse Radio. My website is maplecrestfarmky.com, and my email is reese@horseradionetwork.com.
I think the best way to find me is on Facebook, or my email is philip@horseradionetwork.com. I'd like to thank our sponsors this week for allowing us to put on a good show. And don't forget to check out all the other shows on the Horse Radio Network at horseradionetwork.com.
Everybody, keep your heels down and your shoulders back, and we'll talk to you next week.